Hi, I'm Jeremy Chacon with PromoEQP, and welcome to the Wednesday webinar series. Today, featuring our strategic partner, OTTO. And speaking on behalf of OTTO is going to be Gabrielle. Now, a couple of things I just want to remind everybody of. OTTO, as a strategic partner, is emphasizing new sampling policies to really try and ultimately make sure that we get the products into your hands that are, tried and tested in order to try and move and make sure buyers are appreciating, seeing, touching, and getting those options back over to them. So without further ado, I introduce everybody over to Gabrielle, and we'll follow back up after the conversation for any kind of questions or open dialogue. Gabrielle, thank you for showing up, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jeremy. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to introduce OTTO. We have been in business for 43 years. We are one of the largest cap distributors, and we have 3 locations. We have our California location, which I'm out of. We also have our Arlington, Texas location, and our Georgia location. And that's in Atlanta, Georgia. We do offer over 6,000 SKUs, and that's including colors and the styles. And we also have decoration services, which is all ran out of the California location. We do domestic embroidery, and we also offer overseas. Our domestic is a 48-piece minimum. At this time, we are exploring lowering that quantity, hopefully by next year. But at this time, it is 48 pieces for domestic embroidery. Then we also have our overseas programs, which is 144 pieces going overseas. And again, we offer it all out of California. All of our branches do distribute just the blank goods. For anyone that's closest location, that's how we ship. We did start up a great offer last year, which has been very popular, which is any orders 24 pieces on up, we offer free ground shipping to the 48 states. So that is really great because we can blind ship it to your customer, no worries, or blind ship it if it doesn't fall into the criteria of the 48 piece for decoration. We can send it to your preferred decorator, which wouldn't be a problem. Again, we've loved the opportunity to see what we can do to become your #1 headwear supplier. We do offer free spec samples for all of you. We also offer EQP pricing on our blanks. So we have that for you all, so that if you wanted to see a spec sample or your customer, whether it be blank or whether it be decorated, we can go ahead and definitely send that to you. We just ask that you pay for the ground shipping, or however you wanted to change up the shipping. That wouldn't be a problem. We do have, like I said, a large variety. I've been with OTTO for 29 years, and we've been growing strong from having just maybe 15 different styles to now as many as we have now. It just shows that the headwear business, a lot of your clients love headwear. Like when you go to different, whether you go out to, dinner or to a baseball game, or to the beach, everyone's always wearing a hat. So with that said, hats are the great branding for all corporate or different retails. So it's one of the wonderful different items that it's not like pins or cups where you won't really see it as much out in the area, as far as looking at people branding your logo for your customer. So we do have a large variety, like I said. We can go ahead and also do virtual specs for you guys, which will be great. We do have artists on hand that if you wanted to see the different look on the hat, whether it's a red hat or a black hat, and your customer wants to see their logo on a patch, or whether they want to see it as an embroidered, we can always show it to them so that it could entice them to see what it is that they want their logo to look like, whether it's, embroidery or patch or heat transfer. We have put so many different decorations on hats. Of course, when you go overseas, that would be more of like the label branding for your customers. That would be more of interchafing, things on the visors. So it's more of a unique type of decoration that could be done overseas versus domestic when they need it right away. It would be more of like the simple front logo, back logo, side logo. But again, it is promoting your customer's name and the brand out there for the hats. So we, do have all that, and we do have the different reps here that could assist with quoting. We also have our online quoting system. When you set up an account online, you can go ahead and view all of our stock, and also pricing is there at your fingertips so that you can get that quote right away from us, and that wouldn't be a problem on there. So yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity. We would love to see what we can do as far as helping you to secure that order, and helping in making sure that your customer loves what they see in front of them. And if they don't, we definitely will go ahead and make sure that we can work with you and strategize and see what can we do to actually get that order for you. Did you have anything, Jeremy?
No. I'm enjoying this. It's you started raising some things in there that triggered thoughts, and it was like you mentioned, like, say, baseball games and beaches and dinner. I mean, are you right now you seeing different trends on why people are buying hats?
It's just as far as buying hats, I mean, I've noticed like everyone has it because it not only covers you up, but it also gives a fashion statement, whether it's at concerts, that people wear the artist that they like, or whether it be, their brand that they love, branded on there. It's just one of those things where hats are out there. Like you even see young children wearing hats or bucket hats or whatever it is. And it's just to cover them, up from whether it be the sun or whether it be just a fashion statement, but it's always great to see someone's logo or their company name on that logo because, it kind of triggers and says, hey, okay, I haven't tried that place. There's a local restaurant that I never tried, and all of a sudden I see somebody wearing a hat, whether it be an employee from the restaurant or maybe a family member, or maybe they just love that location. I was like, okay, it prompted me to Google search it and be like, okay, what is this? And it popped up and I'm like, oh, okay. I had no clue what it was, but, I was like, wow, all right, let me go check it out, try it out. So it's already like a branding kind of like, in your face where you're like, let me check and see what's going on. The biggest popular thing that was happening last year, I think it kind of died down, but it's still very popular, is cat bars. So it's customers buying blank hats, and then all of a sudden they're putting patches on these hats or a transfer, and they're going to these different events and just having, people pick out the hat, which was the foam hat was like the big thing for this hat bar. And then they're pressing all these different patches on there. So that was trending last year. What's trending also is the mirrored logo, which I don't get, but hey, it's a fashion statement where it's like your name is mirrored, backwards, and then it has that, arch over it. But that was more of a fashion statement, whether they really cared if people could read their, actual company name. I'm not sure. I think it was more of, fitting in with the crowd.
Well, and you know what, you're right. I mean, hats, the origination of a hat is the idea is that it's carrying identities to it, right? I mean, to me, it's the old school John Deere hats, right?
Exactly.
With the patch and with everything else. It seems as though the only person not branding his hat is Leonardo DiCaprio when he goes to a Venetian wedding. You know what I mean? And then I guess Leonardo is probably his own brand. But it does, you know what, I'm glad you mentioned the mirroring logos, because a couple of years ago, we were also seeing where they were doing the small off on the side, different things.
Right.
Are there anything that you're seeing with the trending as far as like literally it's the types of imprints, the types of methods that are starting to really drive attention or awareness in the market?
Right. So mostly, I mean, of course, embroidery is still out there. I mean, everybody still wants their logo embroidered. The one thing is the DTF, where it's more colorful, it's more vibrant as far as, the colors just, out there, more bolder than embroidery would be. So we do see a lot of new trends where they're coming more where they want the glitter, or they want something that has more of a puff look to it, whether it be even a leather patch that is a debossed or embossed. It just depends on where, what that company wants to represent or how they want to brand their logo. But again, that mirrored one is just one of the ones that it's, it's questionable, because you're thinking, okay, you want to brand your name, but it's kind of hard to read it, unless you're really looking at it, or someone stands, from what I heard, I haven't tried it yet, but from what I heard is if they stand in front of a mirror, you could actually read the logo. Is that true? I haven't. I should try getting one and just checking so that I know that what I'm saying is true. But yeah, it's just, one of those things where, like you said, everybody wants to brand themselves. It's like myself, I have a Gigi hat. And, the saying that I'm a grandma, but that's my name, Gigi. So I go and I get it and I buy it from the store that, it says, best Gigi or whatever it may be on there. And that's it. Everybody's branding it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a corporation, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a restaurant, or, or even an athletic team or whatever it is. People want their name out there, or they want to know, like, let other people know, like, hey, I'm a papa, or hey, I'm a golfer, or, whatever it might be.
Okay, because you hit something there that's really kind of cool to me, or just an interesting thing to kind of like play as a thought, because one of the questions I'd always had was, are there specific styles that match to specific clients? I mean, it's like, it's the classic trucker hat. Isn't really just for truckers. But what you ended up saying inside of there, as far as the way an individual is also branding themselves with the hats they choose, that brings to an awareness that it's like, if you go to a team store at a baseball game, which you mentioned, it's literally right next to the baseball hat is the bucket hat, is the visor, is the Is there a valid reason to potentially, with one buyer, talk about a multitude of product options, ultimately to try and answer or provide a solution to the uniqueness of the people wearing the hat?
Right. And I believe that a lot of it is the uniqueness. I mean, of course, when we're doing, your customers, you're selling it to, maybe it's a resort, that it's a nice resort where people, after they want to show, hey, look, I went here, and it's more of a relax, it's more of a dad hat, the garment wash, where you go to resorts, or it's more of a lifeguard hat or a visor. You see those type of different styles, versus if you were to go to, maybe let's say skiing, you're going to see beanies. You're going to see maybe a performance hat there, or even, a camper style hat. So there's different, retail or different, whether it be, a restaurant, because I've even seen restaurants branding like, me personally, I wouldn't wear a restaurant on my head, but hey, there's many people that love it. They'll put it and they'll buy it. Whether you go to Bubba Gump's, and you have a different phrase that they use, then yeah, sure, let's go ahead and
yeah. And I do. I kind of love the idea that instead of trying to drive a 500-piece order, maybe there's a valid reason to say, you know what, we're going to do 200 pieces of a traditional type hat, and then break down the additional orders just to try and ultimately emphasize or connect with, like I said, the uniqueness of the people who wear the hats.
And that's why I said hats are out there. Like, I know a lot of customers, the distributors, they're scared to sell hats. Like, they're like, oh, it's like, I'm not really familiar. And it's, like I said, the hats are the easiest, because the hats are the ones that you're going to see your brand out there mostly on a hat or a t-shirt. You can hand out a pin, you can hand out a cup, you can hand out, even backpacks that, you'll see your brand. But how often are they going to be wearing a backpack? Because honestly, when I get, go somewhere, yeah, I'll have a backpack, but then it'll be pushed to the side. Will I take off my hat? Maybe if I start eating, or I'm somewhere, where there's not that much, sun in there. But other than that, I mean, you really don't really see many people will take off their hat or take off their t-shirt, so that brand is already there. Like, it's just a matter of people like being curious and saying, okay, do you work there? If they see a name. So I think it's the easiest way to brand your company is a hat. I love hats. I've been in the business for 29 years. Do I wear hats often? Not as often, only if I'm out in the sun, or like I said, I'm out with my grandsons and I have that Gigi hat on, or, I'm at the beach or at, the park or whatever it may be. But there's so many people, like I go into like whether a restaurant and you see a lot of guys, even gals are now wearing, the hats, or a visor or whatever it may be. But again, that's the easiest branding, where it's up there, it's eye level, people can see it, it's an easy sell, I would think, to, especially everybody loves hats. I mean, well, maybe there's a little few that don't, because they have, awesome hair that they just don't want to mess with.
I'm aging myself. You go back 10 to 15 years, there was never a thought that you were going to work in a pair of sneakers. Now, sneaker is the new dress shoe.
Right.
But we're also seeing a lot of those exact same trends. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because you know hats better than I do, and at least inside of the market. But correct me if I'm wrong, we're actually starting to see more and more, even as people start moving back into the workplace, and we start seeing more elements of gathering in a central place to do business. We're seeing hats as almost a part of the fashion of going back to work.
Oh yeah, it's a uniform, and that's the thing too. You see it with, construction workers, you see it with roofers, you see it with gardeners, you see it even, at the restaurants when you go. Everybody has their brand on there. So it is a workplace, item, and uniforms, that's what it is. I mean, I know that when we're going and, the distributors are selling it to their customers, they're probably looking to, give it away. Or they're probably trying to do like a kitting for their, whether it be employees when they just start. So they put it in a box for them. But it's always there. It's always top of mind that, hey, that's not going to be put away like a pen or a cup. You're not going to be walking around with your pen or your cup, which is, they're great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's great when you have it and you're like, oh, okay, this is who it is. But again, the hat is one of the top best promotional item out there, because it's always being worn, and I feel like I have a theory where I feel like the 5-panel braided hat, came back because someone probably found it in the garage or a shed of their grandparent or whoever it may be, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, cool. And then all of a sudden it starts trending again, because back in the day, and I'm dating myself with OTTO, but we used to, the trucker, and like you said, only truckers wear the trucker hat. Not no more. You have the younger generation, whether it's high school or whether it's, the college kids, they're wearing those trucker hats. It's like a cool statement. And if you go to concerts, that's like the number one hat that's out there is the trucker hat, that it has the artist's name on it. When I look at the prices that they charge, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know how much that hat costs, and I know how much the decoration costs. But again, they're branding themselves, and because they have their, fans out there that they don't care what it costs. They just want to wear it. They want to be associated with whether that band or whether that company, surf company or biking company, whatever it may be. Corduroy was back in the day, and now it's coming back. It's making a comeback. The Taslon, like a crinkle hat, is coming back. So it's almost like everything goes full circle. It goes away for a while, and then all of a sudden it comes back to life, which is great, but it's almost like, oh man, we should have kept that in stock, instead of fading it away, because now it's like so popular.
You know what you mentioned inside of there that, and it kind of slipped my head, but it's so accurate, true. I mean, reasons behind the purchases, identifying it as a uniform piece, right? Yeah. I deeply appreciated that because right now uniforms, I think, are going through a little bit of a revitalization of the way people are examining those. Right. And even when we start talking about, like, say, kids, right? I got a little guy who goes to camp. Every year they get a brand new brightly colored t-shirt because right. That's how everybody identifies the groups when they go out on their little field trips.
Right.
You're in the middle of summer. Why aren't you doing a hat? I mean, it's almost as though if you do the same, everybody buys a t-shirt that's going to fit their kid for the next 2 years. So every other year, why not examine the use of a hat? Because that's helping you make sure that they're identified when they go out on the field trips. That helps to identify, and the hat ends up having a much longer lifespan to help promote the program in and of itself, because of just what you ended up saying, the regularity of a hat being reused.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can find something, and I mean, who doesn't when you're running out the door? You just grab whatever, you're going to go to the beach, or you're going to the park, or you're going golfing or whatever. It is, whatever activity, you're going to be outdoors. You go and you grab the hat, of course, if you have time, you just grab what looks good, what makes me look good, what matches with my outfit.
I'm a hat snob. I'll spend that time. I take that time. Because that's a part of my prep. I'm a hat snob.
Yeah. Well, there's times where, okay, like, case in point, we were going for Mother's Day on an outing where they wanted to go to this gardening place that it's like a really nice, showing all these different plants and everything around our area. And lo and behold, unfortunately, my son forgot the hat for his little ones, and oh my goodness. But of course, they're in a little umbrella stroller, but they still needed a hat, right? So at that time when they went, they couldn't find a hat to fit the little one because they're under 2. So they're like, oh my gosh, like, Mom, what do you have in your car? And I thought, oh my gosh, I took everything out. Lo and behold, we had the Boonie bucket hat that we carry here. And I thought it's not going to fit them. And my husband said, well, who knows? So I went, and luckily it was a small medium, pulled the string, made that hat, or the bucket hat, so small that it fit my little 2-year-old grandson. I mean, did it fit him perfect? No. But it fit him in a sense of it was covering him like if it was kind of like an umbrella. But had I had a logo on it, which I didn't, because it's part of like one of my little stock that I have for my blanks, it would have been out there, and people they even said, oh, did you get that here? A couple of people were asking. And I said, oh, no, we brought it in. But it's things like that. Like sometimes the little ones are forgotten, and, the gift shops forgot to, hey, you need to get also some for little guys or little gals, whether it be something, because you never know. I mean, I'm pretty sure if they had it, my son would have been like, you know what? I need to cover their heads. I don't care. Forgot it. He would have paid for it. So I think it's mostly just going out there. Even when our kids were in soccer, again, it's not just having that uniform, but it's also, hey, maybe a visor, maybe a hat. And again, it'll promote the league so that someone says, hey, we should probably put our kid in that, because they may not know that there is a local league in the thing. So again, that branding on a hat, it's so important, because again, anybody, whether you're not like you, Jeremy, sometimes I'm the same way. I'll be like, nope, that doesn't look good. I'll pass on that. Even I went to an event for our industry, and it was more cowboy style. I forgot my hat, and they actually gave us one. But then I thought, oh, I just fixed my hair. Do I really want to wear it? So again, it depends, how are you branding it? And then they were branding some cowboy hats that they gave out at that event. And it was like, they had a different branding where it was more of a heat branding. So on that bucket, or not the bucket, but on that cowboy hat, the straw hat, which is a different texture that they were branding it with heat. So they had, whether it be, little horns for the cows, or whether it be a cross, or whether it be, initials, or a mountain, they were literally right there and there branding the hat. So that's more like kind of like a hat bar, where again, the hats are out there, because you can't brand a shirt on site right there. It has to be something that's very simple and easy, and that people will use. And because it was a cowboy dinner, they were giving the cowboy hats, which is awesome.
And it's so true. Again, it's oftentimes we're running into events where there's elements in relationship to a theme or something that's tied in, that's going to call a unique hat that isn't necessarily always in ownership type hat. And then even still, it's the stuff we see as consumers, because sometimes we always forget. We forget ourselves as consumers when we're thinking about what we're selling, right? Correct. But everybody is a consumer. I was watching the French Open. I know Wimbledon's going this week, and Coco Gauff took an early exit, but that's a whole different story. Anyways, but I was watching the French Open, and you saw the first entire rows of the French Open. They were wearing the straw fedora type that had the clay-colored band that was running around it. And at first, it was like, oh, that's a unique hat. And then you saw it all the way around. It was like, they're selling that hat.
That's right.
But I mean, that's our buyers or recipients of those products. They're watching the same things we are. Exactly. And when they see those trends, those become things that engage and interact and move them. Are there anything along those lines you guys end up seeing, especially tied to events, or like a seasonality or something along those lines?
Right. So we do have, like I said, we have quite a bit of different distributors that they deal with the concert industry. So they need it like yesterday. So for them, like it's the foam hat, the trucker hat is one of the most popular hats that they get. They also get more of the perforated back mesh hats that is cool comfort, so we're seeing that, trend. But again, it varies, it's mostly not really your customer. They're asking you, what do you think? Or sometimes it's because their customer told them, this is a hat I've always used for the past 5 years. This is what I want. And it's not where, okay, you're going to still give them the quote for the hat that they want, but it's also great to upsell and say, hey, by the way, I think this is a hat that came in that's trending. Do you think they would like this? So kind of going out of the box, because I'm not saying let's not listen to what our customers are wanting, but let's also give them something else that they may not know, that, hey, this is trending and this is probably going to be a lot more people wearing, because they might not want that same dad hat. They might want something different. And it's showing them the different options, but again, if they stick to that same hat, great. Okay. There's nothing lost, because that they're getting it, but hey, this hat might be taking off, that all of a sudden they might be like, hey, you know what? I was going to give you the 3,000, but they love that hat so much. Let's go 5. You just never know.
And I'll tell you this, if you guys have anything that talks about re-emerging fashions, it's whatever information, get it over to us so we can make sure that gets shared out. I would not have thought that the corduroy hat was ever coming back, because it's going to give me a flashback to 1993. But I mean, if it wasn't a bad year. No. But then listen, it's okay. It just starts getting nerdy and geeky, and it's like I love all of the trends and I love all of the conversation. But listen, is there anything that I've specifically forgotten that needs to be said before we kind of move to a wrap up?
Yeah, no, I mean, just I think it's, don't overlook the hat product, because again, I feel like a lot of times it is being a little bit overlooked because it's kind of intimidating. There's so many different SKUs to choose from, and you can't please everyone, as far as you might have someone in that company that loves visors, or you might have someone that loves bucket hats or beanies, we can do a mixture of whatever they want, as long as they meet that minimum. Of course, it would have to be the same item, like beanies with beanies, visors with visors, being the 48-piece minimum. But again, there's so many different options that you can do that, there's some, like now our hat, where our flat visors that we had, they're now a flexible visor. So now you can not just have it flat, but you can flex it to be a curved visor. So again, you might have people in that company that some don't like it and some do. So you got, maybe 50 that like it and 50 that don't. So you could still buy that same hat and 50 of them just has to curve it, to their liking. Again, it's one of those things that I feel a lot of times, where I'm hearing distributors, well, I'm just sticking to the same, whether it be the same t-shirts or backpack or, a cup or a magnet or whatever it is. I think just having that opportunity to get those tech packs or a virtual or even a sample. I know that I had someone that said, hey, specs sell. That's what gives me the opportunity, because I'm more of a visual person. So I'm pretty sure everybody, majority are, that if you have something in front of you, you're like, wow, I really like this. How does it fit? How does it look? And again, it's making sure that we're not short selling ourselves or saying, okay, let's go with the more, easiest approach. I think sometimes when we give them that other, whether, we all know our budgets, we all know the customer's budget. And of course, if they give you a budget and that a hat's out of the game or a shirt, you're not going to say, hey, you already know their budget. But if they give you a budget where you can throw in a shirt or you can throw in a hat, why not give them that opportunity and say, look, this is what it's going to cost you, and look at how nice it looks, and know that your brand is going to be worn like continuously, whether it's someone has it in their car tossed in there, they're going to grab it, and put it on, especially when they're going to different events.
Oh, and I love the idea that says, you know what, if we're going to go with a sample, let's go bold. Let's take a bold risk, because that's the sample piece. Everybody, they know the hats they like. What about the hat you haven't explored yet? It's a cool idea. It's a cool note. Okay, now let's take the sales hat off. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry. So bad. How do you say you're a father without saying you're a father? You throw out a bad joke. So I before the recording, we were talking. You were just recently at the Women's Leadership Conference.
Correct.
And they had you do a role play as a distributor.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
So
pretty scary.
What were your takeaways? I'm curious. Everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side, but what was your takeaway? I'm curious.
It showed me that, sometimes we think, oh my gosh, our job is like, it's a lot, but it caused me to really, not that I never appreciated you guys as a customer, but it caused me to show that how important it is to get that information in your hands right away, you know, to make sure that you don't have to follow up with me, you know, that I get that right away, because it was like, okay, you're going to be an operations distributor. And I had to go and work myself to go find a supplier like myself, you know, even though I was a distributor, you know, and check, okay, what's my pricing? Am I within my budget? You know, am I going to make a profit off of this? You know, to whatever it is. At that time, it was pens. It was like a glitter pen. And it really showed me like, my takeaway was, you know what? We got to be more on top of our game for you, making sure that we have it all there for you. That no questions asked. You know, once you give us an email or you call us, that everything's intact. And not that we don't have it, but it's just, it gave me a different appreciation of knowing how hard it is to be a distributor. You're with the end user, and they're pretty, you know, well, the role play, they were extremely picky, like, I need this or I need that, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, I thought I already wrote all the different aspects or different things you wanted, and then they throw a monkey wrench, you know, oh, by the way, this is what you're like, okay, you know, and you just have to put on a smile and be like, okay, let me go try to get it for you. So for me, it was just like, oh, wow, this is a lot. So even coming back with my team and sharing with them and just letting them know, I know you guys know the importance, but it was just, you know, having to know how crucial it is when they tell you, like, I need it before the end of today. They truly need it for before the end of today, because of the fact that their customers either going to move on, or they're also competing with other distributors to get that price, you know. And at the end, it's also the relationship that's built, right? But I think sometimes when they have a certain, you know, budget they have to meet, or a certain, you know, item that they're looking for that maybe somebody else can't get. It's more of trying to see, okay, we may not have that hat, but here's something comparable to it, so that our, you know, our customers, yourselves, don't have to go trying to look for something different or try to figure it out, because you have so many things going on, right? Not only are you dealing with us suppliers, you're also dealing with the customer, you're also dealing with different aspects and different customers too, right? So it's trying to make sure that we make your job a lot easier.
I've from day number one, I had an understanding that the single most important thing to a distributor was the relationship they have with their suppliers, a genuine, true partnership. Exactly. And I think we got unfortunately a little off the track, where things for a period of time were a little wading into, at times, almost adversarial. But right. It's refreshing to see that we're taking steps collectively, understanding through empathy, engagement, appreciation, and back to a more sturdy, rooted approach to engagements, and focusing on those relationships and driving home that partnership. It's good to see reemerging, even with all of the challenges that we face.
Oh, definitely. And that's one thing, you know, even like I said, being here with OTTO, I always say, you know, although, you know, I'm trying to get that sale, I'm not going to tell you something that I cannot produce. Like, you know, if there's something just to get that order in that one time, I'm definitely going to say, hey, this is what we can do. This is how we can execute, you know, your time, your in-hand state, everything else, you know, that's the whole thing, is being upfront and honest with our customers and making sure that it's just not just a one-time order, but it's an order throughout the years, you know, to have that partnership and to be that you guys feel confident that, hey, you know what, they pulled it off for me last time. They'll, you know, we may not pull it off every single time, but we'll go ahead and we'll do our best to see what we can do to fulfill that order, or to see, you know, to make you happy, or even for that matter, let you know, hey, you know what, unfortunately this time I can't. This is the best we can do, you know. And it's being upfront and honest. It is having that integrity to know that we're working all together to, you know, get sales right. And again, like you said, we want you guys to know that be confident in, hey, OTTO will take care of it, or they'll help us out. And if they can't, they'll let us know right away.
That's awesome. And listen, we've hit that point where we run about 45. And again, I so deeply appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate the conversation. And everybody, it's Gabrielle, it's OTTO Hats, a strategic supplier partner for PromoEQP, who clearly knows her stuff. So any questions, any information, we're going to collect everything from you and make sure that when we repost this for replay, we'll have all of your contact information, everything listed inside of there. So again, I just want to say my appreciation for making the time, my appreciation for being here on Webinar Wednesday, and look forward to the next time. I owe you a drink when I see you in Expo.
Okay, sounds good.